Good morning, Barry Ricks, and for one meeting only, I'm representing the STARFISH project. So, a man was walking along a deserted beach at sunset, and in the distance he could see a young boy. And as he walked, he noticed that the boy kept bending down, picking something up and throwing it into the ocean. Time and time again, he hurled things into the sea. As the man approached closer, he could see that the boy was picking up starfish which had been washed up on the beach, and one at a time was tossing them back into the sea. As the man caught up, he said to the boy, "What are you doing?" The boy replied, "I'm throwing these starfish back into the sea, otherwise they will surely die through lack of oxygen." "But," said the man, "there's thousands on this beach and hundreds of beaches along the coast. You can't save them all. You can't possibly make a difference." The boy smiled, picked up another starfish, threw it back into the ocean and said, "Made a difference to that one." Stay tuned for my 10 minutes. Can you tell me your name, please?
Neil Bulldog.
And what's your name?
Amber.
Hello, sweetie. What's your name?
My name's Sue Ben.
Thank you. Imagine, if you can, opening your mouth to speak, to give a simple response, such as your name, and nothing comes out. And in an effort to force the words out, you end up in a spasm of repetition. Suddenly a stammer, bit of an inconvenience maybe, butt of an odd joke, but hey, there's worse things. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, there are worse things that can be wrong. But knowing and understanding that never helped me. For many of those who stammer, their every waking moment is filled with fear, apprehension, and the dread of either speaking or being spoken to, leading to an existence of avoiding words, sounds, situations, relationships, friendships, and opportunities. Stammering interferes with the very attribute that sets human beings apart from all other animals, the aptitude for verbal communication. Speech is the basis of our culture, and the inability to communicate fluently affects every aspect of the stammerer's life and tends to push him or her outside of society. Stammering is not simply a speech difficulty. It is a serious communication problem. It undermines a person's self-esteem. It affects their interaction with others. It impedes education and seriously hampers employment potential. For a fluent person, although nobody is truly fluent, it would be difficult to comprehend the multitude of everyday situations that presents fear to a stammerer. I'm sure all of us would take for granted going into a pub or restaurant and ordering food and drink. Not the stammerer, who may well get someone else to order for them, or as I did now and again, same game, and then quietly making do with something that they didn't really want. Going for a haircut, buying new specs, or simply asking directions. The list is endless. Our society then tends to pigeonhole the stammerer, rarely taking the time to look beyond the impediment to the person. They simply see a stammer. And sadly, attitudes are formed by comedians, professional or otherwise, who imitate for a laugh. You know, I'm a great fan of the late Ronnie Barker. But his character of Arkwright in Open All Hours just never did the stammerer any favours. And so the years of stammering for many will result in feelings of guilt, shame, humiliation, loss of dignity, and even feelings of self-hate. But despite all this, to the layman, stammering would still be viewed as non-life threatening. But there have been many cases of people who stammer, whose fear of the telephone has been so great that they've been unable to call for medical help or make that essential appointment for a checkup. Like the case of the young lady who lived in Yorkshire at the time of the Ripper murders. Every evening she would get off of her homebound bus 2 stops early, at the name of a stop that she could say with less difficulty. And so in effect, she took her life into her own hands by walking home through an area where 2 victims had already been found. Stammering is a roller coaster ride, but every time you go down, you never quite come back up and up. And so, at the STARFISH project, we manage stammering by empowering the individual with change and lifelong support in order for them to be able to manage their own recovery. We teach a powerful breathing technique, diaphragmatic retaining, where you learn to breathe, speak and release air in a cycle, using the intercostal muscles of the costal area of the diaphragm. We teach with 2 safety nets, block and release, and voluntary sliding, to just help us out of those tense speaking situations which can trigger stammering. STARFISH was formed in 1998 by a wonderful lady called Anne Blight. She is the person responsible for releasing the Barry, the personality that I should always have been but wasn't able to be. We run 6 adult courses a year, 2 young peoples and 1 young adults. And it's important to recognise that we run on a cost covering basis only because Anne believes it's wrong that she should take financial advantage of somebody's misfortune. Now I'm referring to those other speech projects like STARFISH, which will charge thousands of pounds to attend, when in effect it can be done for £300 or £400. My road to recovery started 19 years ago, and it's been a road with many twists and turns, and it goes on into the distance, almost certainly for the rest of my life. And so, in concluding, I'd like to ask you to appreciate something, because we're all business owners, we all run business, we all come into contact with clients, all sorts of people, and sooner or later you will be speaking to someone who'll have a stammer. How will you react? So I'd like to invite you to appreciate something which perhaps you've always taken for granted. And if you have, that's fine, because there's things that I take for granted. But would you appreciate that you can just open your mouth, say what you want, when you want, and how you want? Because for 1% of the population, that's me, 1 in 100, that wasn't always the case, and fortunately now it is, but it wasn't always the case. So would you join me in appreciating the wonderful gift of communication. Thank you. I haven't got time for questions, but I will be hanging back afterwards. If you want to talk to me, please do. Kayla, which I've got a public...
You've got time for questions?
Yeah?
Yeah, we got 1 minute 40 seconds.
Right.
No, I've got questions.
So if I am talking to a stammerer,
Yeah.
what can I actually do to help them?
Thank you, Neil. Brilliant question. The best thing that somebody could have said to me when I was struggling, and it never happened, they never did, would be this: I understand. Take as much time as you need. I'm here for you. That way you take some of the pressure, some of the tension off that person's shoulders, because they're so anxious, they're so knotted up with fear. I've got to say this, I've got to say it, and that just triggers the stammering more. So I understand. Take your time.
That's difficult because we're British and we don't do that.
No, we don't.
Because we don't want to draw attention
No.
to something and we don't want to make you feel any worse.
No,
So it's hard, very hard to say that.
that's right. Yeah. Sue,
Mine's more of an observation. I met you probably 7 years ago.
we did, didn't
We
we?
used to stand up every week and do our 60 seconds. And you are the first person that I've ever come across that stammered. And I think you've done an amazing journey since those last 7 years, and the work you're doing now is fantastic.
Thank you. That's the best compliment that you could ever pay me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, here.
Anyone else? No. Okay, well, Kayla, as you know, we have a public speaking Toastmasters connection, and I'm all keen on evaluation because this is the kind of thing I do for Rotary and other type of organisations, and Kayla's going to give me some very good feedback and evaluation after the meeting. So if you can hang back for that, I think you would learn something. And if you're interested in public speaking, then it's a good flavour of how we feedback and advance people. But I've got some bookmarks which I'm going to pass round. It's got the Starfish story on one side, and on the other side the contact details of the Starfish project. Hold on to it. If ever you come into contact with someone who's got the problem, you might feel it right to pass it on. Leslie.
Just say one thing. It takes a hell of a lot of courage, I think, to stand up and
Absolutely.
to say what you've just said. And I actually feel quite emotional. I don't know if anybody else does. I could actually have tears very, very easily, but thank you. Because
Well, it's a part
it
of me
helps
that you don't.
everybody
Yeah, it's a
to
part of
be
me
able
that
to
you
deal
probably
with
don't
things.
know anything about. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, so I go back and coach, and I do it free of charge. I don't charge for my time. I take a week out of the business. I go back and I charge, and I give my time free of charge. Cheryl.
I came to one of your
You
groups.
did, didn't
asked me to
you?
come and
Yes,
talk,
a
and
few
it was,
years
It was a
ago.
few years ago, and it was
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. Do you still
Yeah,
have that
group.
opportunity for people
Yeah,
to come
the,
in and see? That was really
the
eye-opening.
Essex support group. Although I don't attend too much myself, it's still going strong. Every 2 weeks they meet over at the community centre in Molsham Lodge, and they just support each other and give feedback and practice what you need to do to recover. And everyone recovers at their own pace. There's no set time, you know, this time next year you'll be fine. It's an ongoing recovery.
Can I just say one?
Kayla!
I met Barry in 2011,
Yeah.
and I had no idea he had a stammer. I had absolutely no idea, and he has more than grown from strength to strength, because someone like me did not pick it up all
No.
those years we were
No.
showing up at that
Yeah.
club. I didn't
Well,
know.
let me say that
Yeah.
it's not just technique. You
Yeah.
do have to embrace a positive attitude, because
Yeah.
there's nothing about stammering that is positive. So you have to embrace a positive attitude and avoidance reduction therapies,
Yeah.
pushing yourself to go into those speaking situations which you would have avoided as a stammerer. Oh, that's good timing, wasn't it? Fantastic. Thank you, everyone.